Your rising sign is the most personal placement in your birth chart, and when I'm talking about the rising sign, I'm talking about you and how you see things, your perspective of the world, your overall personality. It's very much the energy that you're giving off when you go out. It's how people perceive you, it's how you are seen. It's one of the big three things to know about yourself, your sun, moon and rising sign. The reason why I say that the rising sign is the most personal placement, however, is because it essentially lays out and sets the foundation and order for the rest of your birth chart. It will dictate what signs fall in what houses for you and how they're going to be aspected. So not all Pisces risings are going to have the same experience. So this is just going to be a general look at what it's like to be a Pisces rising. So guys, let's get into it. Let's talk about your chart ruler. This is the feminine mutable water sign that's ruled by Jupiter Neptune. Jupiter, this is a planet of wisdom, abundance, more, blowing things up to impossible sizes, knowledge, spirituality, philosophy, other religions. And then you've got Neptune, which is about dreams, illusions, imaginations. It's a very misty planet. It creates a bit of a fog, the Neptune energy does, the rose-coloured glasses effect. So you need to know where Jupiter and Neptune are in your chart, because these are your chart rulers, and it's going to be very important for you to study those to get a better insight to your rising sign. And keep in mind, if you've got any planets that are actually sitting in your first house, that will change the expression of your rising sign. And if you know that the sign in the house that I'm talking about doesn't resonate with you because you've got an intercepted house, check the video before or check the video after. There's all the introductions over. Let's get into it and have a look. What's it like to be a Pisces rising? Let's start off and look at the first house. Of course, for you guys, you've got Pisces sitting there. And as I just said, it's a feminine mutable water sign that's ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. So these two planets influencing your first house of self and I am and how you're seen is quite, they're big energies to be ruling over your first house. And this kind of gives you a very imaginative outlook onto the world. You know, you're one of those types of people that has big beliefs. You can be very dreamy, very daydreamy. Of course, being daydreamy is very much linked with Pisces. Like Pisces rising, you need to be at work and you're probably sitting there and you're like, what happens to us when we die? What happened to those people in the war and they moved country? Like, you're just thinking about things that are not related to what you're doing right there and then. You can kind of live a little bit up in the clouds sort of thing. And both Jupiter and Neptune, these are both planets that have no boundaries whatsoever. So as a Pisces rising, boundaries is something you might struggle with really, and seen as someone that kind of struggles with boundaries, because this is a mutable energy. Mutable is changeable, adaptable and fluid. And you've got mutable signs ruling all of your angular houses. The angular houses are the more prominent houses that are in our life. So, and you've got mutable signs sitting there. So the way you're seen is a very changeable personality. It's not a consistent, you're not the same person every single day. People get different vibes from you. And you're seen as a very much like a go with the flow type person. And very out there, you know, free thinking, very changeable. You do have quite a stubborn side to you, which we'll get into as we go throughout the rest of the houses, but people don't get that impression of you when they kind of first meet you. This is of course a water sign, and water is linked with being in the emotions, and it's actually in a fire house, and the fire is about expression, and fire signs have a sensitive side too, so you've definitely got a sensitive nature. You're someone who is in touch with your emotions. You're not a stranger to crying probably. You're very able to read other people's emotions very well, like energy exchanges. You guys really get that when you meet people. It, you know, it kind of works like a mirror, really. How Pisces works, you're mirroring somebody else's energy without you even realizing it. With Pisces, with the Pisces archetype, you will absorb, you can very much absorb other people's emotions. So, and people might feel very comfortable coming up and talking to you guys because it's a very compassionate sign, Pisces. You're leading out there into the world with compassion. So you might find people come up and just start expressing things to you and letting things out. They feel comfortable talking to you. And the water, this is very intuitive. Water is intuitive as an element, and so are other elements. It's not just water, but you're very intuitive. So we're talking empath vibes here, you know, and you need to trust your intuition, guys, which we'll talk about more as we carry on going through the rest of the houses. But you definitely need to trust your intuition because you guys have got a very, very high one. You have a really kind and caring nature about you, and you care about the collective, you care about the well-being of everybody. The outlook that you have, you know, you have empathy for other people, you care about the collective. This is the sign of compassion that we're talking about here, and you have the ability, as I said, to just pick up on other people's emotions and thoughts and absorb it like a sponge. And as a Pisces rising, you need to be able to protect yourself from that, and protect yourself from negative emotions, really, because it can affect you. And you can take that home with you and carry that on. You are not a free therapist, even though that's what you might feel like when people come to talk to you and letting out all of their thoughts, but you do just need to be mindful of that. Now, one other thing here, this is the sign of the collective, because Pisces is the 12th house, so that's how we're all connected as a collective unconsciously. So with this being in your first house, we're talking about the sign of the collective in the house of self. So it's ever so slightly conflict in there, and one of the reasons why a big part of your life purpose that you probably feel inside of why you're here and what you do is to help others and to help the collective. Your concern is not always about the self. It's usually about others before the self. Again, another reason, we'll get into this as we talk more, guys, but you have to be able to protect yourself from certain things and take time alone to recharge yourself so you can keep going out and be the giving, caring, compassionate person that you are. And also Jupiter is the planet of wisdom, knowledge, higher learning, spirituality, philosophy. So wisdom and knowledge is a big part of you, of your guys' life path, really, and learning and understanding things that are not tangible topics, and understanding information that can help change the collective is a big theme for you guys in your chart. Jupiter is actually ruling 2 of your angular houses, so that's very important. You've got Mercury ruling the other 2 angulars, so knowledge, wisdom, learning, understanding the mind, these are important topics for you guys as a Pisces rising. Let's have a look at the 3rd house. You've got Taurus sitting there, and this is the feminine fixed earth sign that's ruled by Venus. Venus, this is the planet of love and beauty. It's the relationship planet. It's all about what we're attracted to and what we attract, and it's got quite an overindulgent energy. This is sitting in your 3rd house of thinking and communicating, your early childhood years, local travel, siblings and neighbours. So it's quite an interesting mix there. So that Venus influence of this house, I mean, you guys, you do genuinely like to enjoy yourselves, to be honest. Taurus is where it slows down a little bit in our chart, the Taurus energy, because Taurus is just chill. And this is sitting in the thinking house, and Taurus is the earth. So in terms of your mindset, you like to be practical and logical in the way that you think. You prefer things to make sense. It's not that you can't believe in non-tangible topics, because you very much can. But in your mind, because this is a fixed sign, as a mutable person, as a mutable rising person, you can be very changeable and seen as very, very changeable. But in your mindset, this is somewhere where you want clarity. You don't want to feel all over the place in your mind. You've actually got fixed signs in quite interesting houses, which makes you kind of be like this. So although you've got the ability to be adaptable and be flexible, you can have quite a stubborn mindset and dig your heels in, like, once your mind's made up. That's it, really. It's going to take quite a lot to change your mind. You don't really want opinions forced on you, and you can actually get fixated by a thought. Taurus can get fixated on things, so you can get fixated on a thought. But having the fixed sign in this house can just give you strong mental ability, strong endurance, basically, in terms of mentally. And we all need that. We need a strong, independent mindset. Growing up, for the most part, you would have had a happy childhood, really, not having to worry about too much, just enjoyed yourself. And this is, of course, a thinking and communicating house, and Taurus is very practical and logical as an archetype. So you're probably the type of person that prefers the hands-on approach when it comes to learning, getting right in there and actually doing the practicality of it rather than just listening. You probably like to get involved and get stuck in. Taurus, Taurus is the 2nd house, and that represents values, and a lot of people have value in money, so it's always linked with money. But this will make you guys have a bit of a money orientated nature. There's other reasons why, as we'll get through and we'll talk about, but you might be the type of person that is, especially if you've got placements here, you might be the more money orientated type person. And also, lastly, here for the 3rd house, one thing I want to talk about is the creative side that you guys have got. This is ruled by Venus. Venus represents the arts, beauty, fashion, anything like that. So you guys have a creative flair. I don't think I mentioned it in your first house, but of course being a Pisces rising gives you a very creative outlook, and being creative is a big part of your personality. Venus exalts in Pisces, so being creative and being able to think creatively is an important theme for you guys. Let's have a look at the ninth house. You've got Scorpio sitting there, and that is the feminine fixed water sign that's ruled by Mars and co-ruled by Pluto. The ninth house is an important one for you guys to look at because it's the home of Jupiter. It's Jupiter's house, and Jupiter is your chart ruler. Ninth house, it's about high knowledge, learning, wisdom, philosophy, travel, other cultures, religion, spirituality. And we're mixing Mars and Pluto energy there. Scorpio as an archetype is very intense and can be quite extreme. Sagittarius energy, ninth house Jupiter, is known to be extreme. So mixing these two together we're looking at some potential potency here, depending on your placements. If you've got planets sitting up here, you might just have this side that's actually really intense. You will definitely fight for what you believe in, and it's just that's not so apparent in your Pisces rising sign. People don't really know that side of you unless they know you a little bit better. But just look at this house, guys, and take it into consideration. But this is why you're going to have very much a love and a passion. Mars is our passion, action, energy, drive. It's our passion. And this is sitting up in the ninth house of learning. So you have a passion for learning and studying and understanding things that are bigger than yourself, basically. And you take your studies very seriously, I imagine, as you get older, maybe not so much in the younger years. As you get older, however, you can take your studying seriously. If there's a topic of interest, you guys will really research it. You will take the time to learn it from the inside out so that you can talk about it with people, because that's a big thing for you guys, feeling that you know and you're here to learn. As I said, it's a part of your life path. Scorpio archetype is very hidden and private, so it might be that you do a lot of your studying when you're completely by yourself and be into some really out there topics, hidden topics, i.e. astrology, for example. But once you get a hold and a love for something, you guys really will delve deep. Scorpio, this represents the psychologist, the mind. That's what it's about. So you might have deep passion or interest in studying the mind and psychology and understanding that aspect of life. It's also linked very much with sex, of course, this sign is. So you could actually be studying something like to be a sex therapist, sex counselling, something along those lines. You could actually work and study to become a teacher and higher education, because this is the Scorpio. It's very dedicated, isn't it? It's a very dedicated energy. Scorpio doesn't mess around. So once you find a topic that you want to study and go into, you could easily become an expert with this field, because it is a fixed sign. Let's look at it again. You've got a fixed sign in this house, and why you have that stubborn side to you, and why you sometimes might not change your mind so easily. And with Mars, Mars is our passion anyway, and the passion for you guys might be in the beliefs. So once you guys have found a belief system, or whatever that might be, a subject that you're really passionate about, you believe in it very strongly, and you will argue with someone if someone starts questioning you, if someone starts pushing you on, pressing you on about what you know. You will argue and stand up for what it is that you believe in, basically, and you just can't stand to not get your point across. And as a Pisces rising, some people might not take you so seriously all the time. You got Pisces rising, you got Saturn in the 10th house, so you might always be taken so seriously, and you're like, hang on, I've got all this in here, I actually know about all this, thank you. And so you depends on your placements, but you could have quite an argumentative side to you. Wherever Mars falls in our chart is an area of life where combative situations could arise, and because this is in the house of higher learning and education, you could have had combative situations with your teachers at college, at university, etc. It's also the sign Scorpio is very much linked with transformation. This is the house of travel. So especially if you've got your Pluto placement up here in the 9th house, you guys have a deep desire to travel. It's most likely that you've lived in more than one country. Some of the greatest transformations for you might come through travel. The way you just have a complete life change is after you've travelled and experienced something. This is definitely somebody who could go off on like a spiritual retreat for like 3 months and really find yourself. You'll come back completely different. You'll have a whole new belief system to fight for. When we talk about Scorpio though, there could be people that are operating on the lower sort of octave and vibration of this archetype, and that falls over into manipulation. Pluto's about manipulation, control and power. We're mixing that with Jupiter. This is a big house. There's a lot of energy up here. So You could have manipulative tendencies actually, and really easily able to pull the wool over people's eyes, because as a Pisces rising, Pisces is linked with being able to deceive as well and pull the wool over people's eyes and give off an impression of themselves that they want. It might not actually be what's going on. So looking at this there's potential for that. Let's have a look at the 12th house. You've got Aquarius sitting there, and that is the male fixed air sign that's ruled by Saturn and co-ruled by Uranus. And this is an important house for you guys to consider, because the 12th house is another Jupiter ruled house. It's the home traditionally of Pisces, and you guys are a Pisces rising. So it's always good to look at the house of your chart ruler, which for you guys, as I said, is Jupiter. So the 12th house, this is the house of the unconscious mind, our subconscious thoughts that we're not really always even aware of. It's how we're connected collectively as a species, basically. It's a very interesting house. Again, it's a watery house, and it's very hidden and private. And the Saturn influence and Uranus influence there, you've got Saturn, which is about boundaries, limits, restrictions, the long haul grind of working hard and doing things right. And then you've got Uranus, which is very unpredictable, random.com, unconventional, completely unique and original, doesn't follow the crowd, and is all about change. So you got all of these energies mixing together in the 12th house. It's very interesting to look at. But having Aquarius in the subconscious mind just straight away makes you guys have a bit of an inner weirdo about you. You've got a weird side on the inside, and don't take offense to that, because I am an Aquarius moon and my Mercury's conjunct Uranus, so I get the Aquarius archetype very well, obviously. But it does make you be a bit of a weirdo on the inside, doesn't it? And you guys, as a Pisces rising, need to definitely learn to embrace this side to you and tap into your Aquarius in the 12th. And especially when it comes to, like, Aquarius archetype is very able to detach from a situation, to just not care. And sometimes as a Pisces rising, you need to not care, because you spend so much time, and a big part of your life is to care about others and the collective always. Sometimes you've got to care about you. And you only. You got Aries in the 2nd house as well. You know, 2nd house, the house of what you've got and what you're building. That's Aries. Aries, that's Mars energy again. It's more selfish, isn't it? So this placement here is showing you need to sometimes be able to just not care about things and be able to detach. As we've just been looking at with your 3rd and 9th house, when we come here again, it's a fixed sign that we've got here. So in the subconscious, even your unconscious mind, the thoughts you're not even aware of, is a stubborn sign sitting there. So while you do have this stubborn side to you that does exist, but the Aquarius influence here is going to make you a very unique thinker. You guys are so unique. You've got a brilliant mind, honestly, the ideas. And, you know, because this is the house of isolation, you probably come up with the best ideas when you're completely by yourself, for example. But you know, you don't think like everyone else, and sometimes people might find it hard to get what you're saying, get what you're coming from, particularly if you've got, say, you know, your Mercury and Aquarius in this house. You might feel like you have to work twice as hard to get your message out there, because it can be a bit misunderstood. And Aquarius is very misunderstood as an energy, so is Pisces to a degree, and we're mixing these two together. So there might be a part of you, as I said, where you feel people aren't taking you seriously, and you're like, no, I am serious. This is what I can see, because you can have the visions. Very watery, intuitive house. Aquarius is very intuitive. That we're talking about, this is the archetype that deals with flash downloads of knowledge and taking knowledge from the ether and sharing it with humanity. So there has to be intuition there. Doubly intuitive. And so you will find, again, why I said in your 1st house part, when people come up to you and just start talking to you and feel like just opening up to you, because the Aquarius archetype is very friendly and it's very open and very good at giving advice. People just talk to Aquariuses, and Aquariuses can just talk to anybody. So again, one of the reasons why you might feel random people just come up to you and start talking to you and saying things, and the intuition that we've got here, you're going to know. You're going to know what they're saying anyway and know what they're feeling, because you'll absorb it and you'll reflect it. Aquarius is a sign that's linked with the community. So you guys will talk more about this when we get to your 11th house, actually. But you really have the capability to build a community. It's one of the things that I feel you are here to do, or have the power to do, is to build a community. I mean, you've got Leo in the 6th house. Once you've built and you've done it, people will follow you. People will be motivated by you and want to be led by you. It's also, we're talking about the Aquarius represents humanity, so we're talking about the sign of humanity mixing with the house of compassion for the collective, for humanity. So your unconscious mind, as we can see here, is forcing you to think about the collective. It's forcing you to think about humanity and other people, which is why you have to be able to protect yourself from that sometimes. It's a very spirit, because it can obviously be overwhelming. But of course we need people like Pisces risings who are able to consider things outside of themselves. We can't have everyone running around being selfish. And we can't have everyone running around not caring about themselves either. So I hope that makes sense. Of course, it's a very spiritual house. And the Saturn influence here will give you the ability to build up a long-term spiritual database and spiritual foundation. It wants you to have that. It wants you to build a solid belief system, and that also links in with what we just spoke about in Scorpion in Ninth. Let's have a look at the 5th house. You've got Cancer sitting there, and that is the feminine cardinal water sign that's ruled by the moon. 5th house is the house of fun. It's traditionally the house of Leo, so it's about fun, dating, romance, children. It's the expression house, and it's all about creativity. And Cancer, of course, is a very family orientated sign and a water, deeply emotional sign. So it's interesting mix looking at these two together. So with it being the house of fun and the signing with family, you guys probably have the best time really when you're at home or when you're around your family, like doing activities with your family. And if you've got children, just love to entertain your kids at home. And it just generally gives you a really good energy with children in general, because it's mothering energy mixed with children. So kids probably just love you. Love you guys, you might have always found. This is a water sign, of course, and it's cardinal. So the cardinal is very much go-get driven. It's a driven energy. That's the phrase I was looking for. It's driven, and we're mixing this in the house of creativity. So you've got you've got another very creative side to you, and love to be able to create things and entertain things that are linked directly with how you feel, how you feel and how you express. You want those two to kind of be in sync with each other. And because this is water in the house of fun, you literally just might love water. Like the type of person that will take an hour bath every day, or just grew up always loved playing with water. And also, of course, the water, the intuition that we've already spoke about with your 1st house and the 12th house especially, but the intuitive element that's here, and the importance where I say you guys need to listen to your gut. You need to trust what your gut is telling you, because you're able to get those flash downloads of information. You need to listen to that. This is the house of children, so it might very much be that you've always wanted to have a big family and wanted to have your own children, especially if you've got placements here. Just always wanted to kind of have a big family. And when you do have children, it's highly likely that there will be moon influenced children. It's not necessarily a Cancer sun sign, for example, but there could be a moon, Cancer rising, or just the moon prominently aspect of one of the main planets. But you're probably going to make pretty emotional children, and you're going to want to give your children all the emotion that you might not necessarily have received growing up. You have got Gemini in the 4th house, so we will get onto that. But yeah, you might try to give them a bit more love that you might not necessarily have received. And this is the house of dating and romance as well. And we've got the very emotional sign here. So your emotions are very much linked when you're dating somebody. You need to be careful of that you could fall for somebody really quickly and just be completely overwhelmed with the emotion of it. But somebody really who's got more of the feminine energy, because in terms of relationships, you've got feminine signs in all of the relationship type houses that I'm looking at. And so you might just prefer someone that can display those sorts of qualities, that has a bit of a mothering side to them. You might be the type to kind of mother in a relationship a little bit, but ideally, when it comes to dating and things like that, the type of person is someone who has the same sort of traditions as you, same values, someone who wants a family, someone who's driven and wants to work as well, someone who is creative, and it kind of goes without saying, it is the house of casual sex, so, and your emotions are tied to this. So I don't feel that you guys could be with somebody or connect with somebody intimately like that unless you were emotionally invested. Your emotions and sex are linked together quite heavily, actually. Especially if you've got your moon sign in this house, you could have quite dramatic emotions, really, and explosions from time to time. But because this is, as we were just talking about, being able to express, this is an expression house, and this is a very creative sign that we've got in there, Cancer. So you need to be able to express from an emotional place. There's many musicians and artists that are born with a Pisces rising, Cancer in the 5th house. So you guys have got the ability to really tap into your creative outlets, and finding a creative outlet might actually help you in terms of managing your emotion. Let's have a look at the 11th house. You've got Capricorn sitting there, and that is the feminine cardinal earth sign that's ruled by Saturn. And this is traditionally the house of Aquarius, and Saturn rules Aquarius, so Saturn likes to be here in this house. The 11th house, this is the house of public connections. It's about humanity, the community, the collective conscious. It's the house of friendships. And wherever Capricorn falls in our chart is an area where we kind of need to take charge. This is where Mars exalts. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, so we need to use the Capricorn energy to build in that area of life. And for you guys, you've got it in the 11th house. So let's start off and look at the friendship side of this. In terms of your friends, guys, you probably have, there's a couple of different ways we could look at this really. You either had maybe a very close-knit circle of long-standing, stable, trusted friendships. That's what you prefer anyway in friendships, is someone who is grounded and stable, someone who's logical and practical. This is Capricorn we're talking about, the most practical archetype that exists. But someone who has a bit of a more of a serious energy. Because it is the Saturn influence, though, it could be that growing up you might have struggled with friendship groups a little bit, but found solid friendship groups when you got older. But you kind of have probably found that you've attracted more of the introverted person who maybe be very ambitious and, importantly, Pisces rising, able to bring you back down to reality. Because as a Pisces rising, the Jupiter Neptune influence, you can live a little bit like, out there and have big fantasies and dreams, which there's nothing wrong with, because it's important to have unique visions. That's why Saturn rules Aquarius, because Saturn wants us to have our own independent way of thinking. But we're talking about Saturn and Capricorn in the house of Aquarius. That's why I just mentioned that. But a friend that can just bring you back down to reality and maybe point things out to you of the practical and logical results of some of your dreams and ideas, for example. And might have also found that you generally prefer the company of older people, perhaps actually more mature people. This is the house of technology, so you guys are going to love to be able to connect in 2023. We can connect with the whole world, can't we? So you're going to be able to love to be able to reach out and connect with people on a global basis through technology. And of course, the 11th house, this is the house of community and you know, humanitarian services, basically, and caring about the collective. And we know that you care about the collective because we've spoken through those topics of why. But adding this in here, the Capricorn energy, where we're meant to build in our life, is showing the potential for you guys. You're here to build a community. You do care about the collective and you have great ideas on how things can change. You have a brilliant mind and unique ideas of how things could be. And this placement here would give you the power to build a community from the ground up, build a charity, or be part of a charity, or be a charity leader. Mars exalts in Capricorn. You can really take charge and build something from the ground up. And once you've got a solid community base and network, people will follow you. Leo in the 6th, you've got Saturn in the 10th, you've got Aries in the 2nd. You know how to take charge when you want to take charge, you know, because we'll get into what you like to do day to day in a minute, but you are here geared towards purpose and building a strong motivating leadership community that will benefit the collective in some way. This is the house, of course, of knowledge, as well as we discussed kind of in your 12th house, sharing knowledge with humanity. So there's something here connected with you guys and helping humanity. You are here to make a difference and to help other people, and this placement really gives you the ability to, when you really want to, when your bodies have to really get into things and learn deep down and research something deeply. This is Saturn energy mixing with Aquarius. You can learn things deeply and you can share that, and it will help benefit the collective. Let's have a look at the 7th house. You've got Virgo sitting there, and that is the feminine mutable earth sign that's ruled by Mercury. Mercury is also exalted in Virgo, so this is why I said at the beginning it's important for you guys to know where Jupiter is and where Mercury is, because you've got Mercury ruling your other two angulars, which is the 7th and 4th house. The 7th house, this is the house of relationships, long-term partnerships. It shows us an energy that we can get on with well. Business relationships, contracts, marriages. And you've got Virgo sitting there. Now, I'm not saying that you can only be with a Virgo sun, moon or rising person. No, because obviously it depends on your own chart and your personal placements. But it will at least need to be someone who can tap into and link in with those mercurial type traits. So again, we've got Earth as an element sitting here in a house of relationships. So somebody who is grounded, logical and practical, and a more introverted energy, basically. Kind of similar to what we just spoke about with your 11th house of friendships. The people that you attract might be the type of people to kind of ground you a little bit, bring you back down to Earth. Yeah, bring you back down to Earth a little bit, because as we know, sometimes you guys like to live in daydream fantasy land, and you need to, this is why you've got Virgo sitting here in your 7th, because it will make you attract people to you that force you to bring you back down here. Virgo as an archetype is super nitpicky. So you've probably found that you've attracted that type of person to you that's kind of always nitpicking, criticising, and can be a bit judgy actually. But also someone that's, and you might be that way in a relationship actually, you might be the nitpicky one, or really, really fussy about who you can be with, and really little things can just turn you off someone. Like if someone's got a little bad trait, it's just a picky energy. The Virgo is about perfection. So wherever Virgo falls in our chart is an area where we're looking for perfection. For you guys, this is in the house of relationships. So one of the things to be careful of is just always striving and thinking that a relationship should be perfect and blah, because it doesn't work like that. No relationship's perfect. And you might just be staying with somebody because you want the relationship to be how you want it to be in your mind rather than what it is. You need to see it for what it is and take off the rose-coloured Pisces rising glasses that might be giving you a bit of a haze over the type of people that you're choosing. When it comes to relationships as well, you also are looking for somebody who is able to be of service and who cares about something other than just himself, and who cares about helping, because that's a big thing for you guys. So you kind of need someone who does understand that, but who will be a bit more logical and practical about things than you guys might be, unless of course you've got heavy 7th house placements, then you might be a more logical, grounded, practical Pisces rising, for example, and rather than if you was a fire sign, loads of fire energy mixed with the Pisces rising, you can be more out there. But also, of course, as a Pisces rising, there is a level of sensitivity that you're leading with there, of course, and emotions. Cancer 5th house mixed with Leo. Gosh, you really can be in your emotions and quite intense. So the Virgo isn't so intense when it comes to emotions. It's not the most emotional of archetypes. So they'll be able to help ground you and be strong for you when you're feeling in an emotional state, and vice versa. You can help bring out their more emotional side. You've probably found that you've attracted those kind of straight talking people who are quite honest. Virgo archetype is quite honest. They will say what they see because they want to improve. So the reason why they come across a bit nitpicky is because they can just see how things could be done a little bit better. And it's interesting for you guys, of course, because it's in your 7th house. The 7th house is looking back at the 1st house itself. So you attract these types of people around you because they'll point out things to you that you might not necessarily see. That's why it's there for you in your 7th house. But overall, the Virgo archetype is a balanced energy for Pisces rising. Let's have a look at the 4th house. You've got Gemini sitting there, and that is the male mutable air sign that's ruled by Mercury. So again, as I just said, we were just looking at it with your 7th house. This is a Mercury ruled house, and on an angular house, that's double Mercury energies. This is prominent for you guys. Where is your Mercury at? Have a look. But the 4th house, this is the house of home, roots, traditions, family, our upbringing, the type of love we receive from our mother. This is a very private house, a deep, watery, emotional house. And you've got air sitting in here. So this is interesting. But let's start off and look at the mercurial aspect of it. So Mercury's very fast. It moves around the zodiac like no other planet does. It zips around the way it orbits. So in the home, you probably had very much a fast energy, a fast, busy environment. Type of home where people, like friends, family, just kind of walked in and out. Hi. Very communicative households, a lot of talking going on, a lot of learning going on. You learn so much from your home environment and learn so much from watching interactions and how people communicate. But a lot of communication in the home. And you guys like to communicate at home. You like to be with your home and your family. Cancer in the 5th house, so you like to have fun with your family. Here, you like to communicate with your family member. It is a mutable energy though, so mutable is of course changeable, adaptable and fluid in the house of the mother. You could have had quite a changeable relationship there with your mum. Like one minute you're getting on just fine, the other minute you're arguing like cat and dog. And your siblings and cousins and things like that probably felt more like friends for you guys growing up rather than family members. And the mother as well, she was probably very much a woman that wears many hats, basically. A woman of many skills. Gemini knows a little bit about everything. Gemini's all up in people's business secretly. So, you guys should probably love a little bit of gossip, but communicating. And I think I might have missed this out in Virgo that we just spoke about, his 7th house. Let me just add it in quickly if I did forget it, or I could be repeating myself. But communication, you like to communicate, and you need a partner also that is able to communicate with you well. You don't really like someone who can't talk and doesn't want to talk about your big ideals and the big emotions that you're feeling. With this being such a fast mutable energy here in the house of home as well, it could be that you changed homes a lot, moved around homes a lot. It could be that you know, it's dual energy, it's split. It's not singular, Gemini. So you could have actually lived in two different homes. You could have had parents that were separated, for example. You could have had parents that, you know, one parent had saying this to you in this ear, the other parent saying the other sort of thing. That's the Gemini energy. Or it could be that just in your home, in your house, your parents just really redecorated the house, so like just changed up the environment, move things around within the home. And of course, with this being air here, air is thinking and communicating, and Mercury's thinking and communicating. So you're thinking, communicating, as we sort of touched on with Scorpio, your ninth house likes to be done in private potentially here. So maybe you do your best learning and research when you're on your own, when you're at home. You're just that type of person that's always on your phone, learning YouTube videos, watching TikTok, watching everything, just absorbing information basically to help your bigger topics that you're trying to deeply understand, depending of course on your own personal placements. Because it's air here, there could have been a possibility of detached vibes within the home. So although there was a lot of communication going on, not necessarily emotional connections and emotional communication, or you might not feel that you understand your emotions truly, they don't always make that much sense. Aquarius up in the 12th house as well, like you might not always be able to make sense really of being able to exactly pinpoint how you're feeling. And because it's a mutable energy here, mutable isn't consistent, it's very inconsistent. I'm a Sagittarius, I know it can be very inconsistent, so there could be inconsistent relationships there with family members, for example. But a lot of fun in the home, I would imagine, though. A lot of fun and jokes, because Gemini is a very light-hearted, jokey energy. I could have just grown up around those sorts of family members that are very gift of the gab type person. You might have just grown up with the people that can just, honestly, gift of the gab, talk the way in and out of a bloody paper bag. But the other thing here though with Gemini is it is linked with being able to deceive. There is a bit of deception that can go on, manipulation. And we know that with the Pisces rising, you can pull the wool over someone's eyes technically if you want, because you can deceive and give off a certain impression of how you're feeling, because you do prefer to be seen as fine, even if you're not. And we have got that Scorpio up in the 9th house energy that we spoke about. So depending on sort of how you're operating as a Pisces rising and your placements, there is some potential for some manipulative, deceitful tendencies too. So because you grew up just watching people with the gift of the gab, you kind of know how to have the gift of the gab as well. If you like what I'm saying so far, guys, anything I'm saying you can relate to, don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and come with me on my astro journey through YouTube. Let's look at the second house. You've got Aries sitting there, and that is the male cardinal fire sign that's ruled by Mars. Second house, this is all about what I have. This is the I have house. So in terms of values, what you value, which a lot of people, as I said earlier on in the video, is money. So we look at it in terms of money and finances, but possessions and sort of how you build long term, really, how you're building long term. What do you do to help build your long term career? Aries, Mars energy there, that's pretty cutthroat. That's pretty fast. So I would actually say, as we said with Taurus in the third, you could be more of a money orientated type person where you are very driven to have a certain amount of money so that you can enjoy life. Being able to enjoy yourself, you've got Leo in the 6th, you want to enjoy yourself like every day is a party. You know, maybe not a party every day, but you want to enjoy yourself basically, and you want to have enough finances in place to be able to have fun and do what you want and build. Cardinal's very driven. It's also very impulsive, of course. Aries is such an impulsive energy, maybe the most impulsive out of all the fire signs, but super impulsive. So you could be a bit of an impulsive spender. If you want something, you want it now. You want it like yesterday, please. You know, you probably love Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime same day delivery. And also, so the second house, well, the first quadrant of the chart is the early years in childhood, and having Aries there, you know, you could have potential for a bit of a spoiled childhood, maybe kind of got what you wanted, you know, Taurus in the third house, you know, just maybe we're a little bit spoiled. Second house is traditionally the house of Taurus, and Tauruses are very avid and keen foodies. So mixing the Mars energy and the Aries energy here, which can be quite aggressive, you might actually be the definition of a hangry person. Like, where's my food? This is also the house of values, and we've got Aries sitting here, so you value the Aries type themes, which is freedom, independence. Freedom and independence is a huge thing for you guys. You love to feel free. You're a Pisces rising. You got Sagittarius in the 10th. You love a bit of freedom, but you value independence, basically being a free thinker, the ability to just get up and do what you want, whether somebody agrees with it or not. Trend setting, doing something that somebody hasn't done and taking it all the way to the top. These are things that you value, being able to speak your mind freely, being able to say things and say what you believe in. Let's jump over now and look at the 6th house. You've got Leo sitting there, and that is the male fixed fire sign that's ruled by the sun. So we're mixing sun energy with the 6th house, which is all about our day-to-day work, day-to-day routine, service, health. It's traditionally the house of Virgo. So it's, Mercury rules Virgo. So we're mixing sun and Virgo energy here. And I think this is a good placement for the sun, in terms of like Mercury never moves far from the sun, does it? It never travels more than one sign before or after or within the sun sign. Wherever the sun, let me start that again. Wherever the sun is, Mercury will either be with the sun or in the sign before or the sign after. It doesn't move far away from that. They go together, they're like buddies. But how the fire signs are placed for you in your chart in the work and money houses really shows that you guys, if you really want to, have definitely got the foundation and base core to go out there, drive and easily build up your own empire. You've got Aries in the 2nd, you've got Sag, Jupiter energy ruling up the 10th house of long-term career. So you've definitely got really good foundational starting points to seriously build something that's completely unique and your own. And I highly recommend you should be doing that and putting yourself out there to the world in some way. And we'll talk more about that when we get up to your 10th house, which we're going to jump onto next actually. But in terms of your day-to-day routine and what you like to do, and when it comes to day-to-day at work, when it comes to work, so as a Pisces rising, that's an introverted energy, it's feminine, so you might be seen as actually quite soft and shy and nice and all of that. But when it comes to work, I don't think you play games. When it comes to work, this is an area of life where you do like to shine, you do want to take charge. You can actually be really motivating to your colleagues. Say you could easily be a manager with this placement. People would follow you. I feel like you're just received well at work. You just kind of get on with people. And your colleagues are like, how are you working so fast? How are you just doing that? High energy kind of type person. Leo in the 6th, it's the sun energy. So day to day, you might just prefer to be operating on the more positive side of life, at least outwardly to others. But yeah, you like to have fun. You definitely like to enjoy yourself, don't you, Pisces rising? And because it is Leo energy there, and the sun is it's the self, you might actually like your day-to-day routine to kind of be revolved around you, depending on your placements. You could be the type of person that kind of does think the world revolves around you a little bit. But ideally, this is why if you build your own empire and you do something, you can actually build a schedule and a routine day to day that is revolved around you and what you want to do. This is the sign so the sun is the self, as I just said. It's our identity. It's a singular energy. This is in Virgo. Now, this is the house of service, this is the house of helping. So again, another reason why a part of you feels like you are here to help other people is because of the sun energy influencing this house. As a Pisces rising, you already want to help. You've got Aquarius in the 12th house, so humanitarian mixed with compassion. You already want to help. You've got Libra in the 8th house, others, things with other people. It's not always about you guys. This is a thing. This is a theme across your chart, isn't it? Again, why you have to be able to tap into that Aquarius 12th house and sometimes detach from things and emotionally detach from things, because you can't always just be here to always help other people. But there is a big sense of self that's here to help. You feel like one of your life purposes is here to help. And one thing you could do this Leo in the 6th house is help build something to motivate, to build that longer term community that we talked about with your 11th. You might find that as you're just going about your day-to-day life, people are just kind of attracted to you, or you draw a lot of attention to yourself for one reason or another, because sun energy does attract people pay attention to the Leo energy. You might find when you're out and about, people just attracted to you or notice you for whatever reason. Of course, Leo is a very expressive sign. It's a very creative sign. It represents the house of expression and creativity. And we mix this into your day-to-day routine. So being able to express yourself day to day, and you being able to incorporate your expressive side into your day-to-day and into your work would be very ideal for you. I mean, Leo likes to be in the limelight. You could be dependent on your placements, of course, because you could be very introverted and not this way inclined. You could very much be into the theatre. You could be on stage. You could definitely be in the limelight with this placement. Sag up in the 10th. You can definitely be here to shine. As I said, many musicians and artists are Pisces rising because of these house placements. They're expressing their creativity in public, and they're sharing their creativity with others. Again, another reason here though why you might just be a bit of a splurger or a splasher, might just impulsively spend your money. And also stubborn tendencies is a fixed sign, of course, so you know, you can just be seen by others as kind of quite firm in your belief system. This is the house of health, so it really does depend on your placements, of course, but you could be an absolute health freak where a lot of your day-to-day is completely revolved around health. Or it could be that you just want to do whatever you want, eat whatever you want all day, every day, and still be healthy. Also with this placement, you might be the type of person, as we said with Cancer in the 5th, you could be a little bit dramatic when you get ill. Let's look at the 10th house. You've got Sagittarius sitting there, and that is the male mutable fire sign that's ruled by Jupiter. And as I've been saying throughout the video, guys, where is your Jupiter at in your chart? Because it's ruling over another one of your angular houses. This is a prominent theme for you, so it's important for you to understand your Jupiter placement. But the 10th house, this is the house of our social connections, our public image. It's another way in how we're seen, really. It's about our status, our long-term career, and our general life direction. So having that Sag energy here, it's a pretty wild energy to have up in the 10th house. And it's also not a bad house to have Jupiter influence in, is it? The long-term career status and general life direction house. But wisdom and knowledge, these are just going to be key things for you guys, really. I think with this placement particularly will make you the eternal student, the constant explorer. As far as public image and reputation goes, you're going to be seen with this Jupiter influence, and it's mutable, isn't it? And you got mutable in your first house. Pisces is mutable, so you're going to be seen as that go with the flow type person, someone whose personality is changeable and adaptable, not a rigid person. Sagittarius, it's quite an upbeat energy, so you could quite possibly seen as quite out there in some of your ideals, but someone who's jovial, got quite a bit of energy. You got Leo in the 6th house, a bit more upbeat, but also someone that could be quite brash maybe, and just say things from time to time that's kind of blunt, not to hurt someone. It's just you kind of speaking the truth. Someone who is in touch with their spirituality and or religious sides to them. I mean, it links in with Scorpio in the 9th house also, but preachy teachy vibes. Sagittarius is a very preachy and teachy, so you might be a little bit preachy and teachy from time to time and be seen as that, someone who will say what they believe in. Again, you might be seen as somebody that kind of struggles with boundaries a little bit with that Pisces rising, no boundaries, Sag. In the 10th Sag, you know, nothing exalts in the 9th house in Sagittarius, because I don't think anything can exalt. Jupiter, it's such a big, expansive energy. It's a huge gas giant. It's got 70-something moons orbiting it. You do like to keep it real, though. You are true speakers and true seekers. That's what Sag is all about, is finding out what the truth is and sharing it with other people. And you've got a real skill set, I think, with all the fixed signs and the thinking houses that we went through. I think you've got a real skill set to deeply understand something and then help teach that to somebody else and help them understand it. You'll just have a way. Jupiter and Jupiter, the 10th house, how you're seen. I just feel like you've got the potential here to be received well by other people when you do step out, can build connections, can build a status, can build something long term if you use some of your other energies to stick through it. Because as I said, it's what we spoke about with Gemini in the 4th house not long ago. It's mutable. It's not always the most consistent. Saggies can be procrastinators. You might procrastinate on your ideas and what you want to do, but also not always finish things. So you might just get bored with the type of career path that you've chosen. Just like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something else, and completely change. Because it's a fire sign, potential for some recklessness here. So, you know, just some maybe reckless decisions you possibly could have made when it's come to your career choices. When it comes to career, ideally you need a career path that's suitable for a Sag archetype, because it will give you the freedom that you want. It's mutable, so you don't need to be fixed and locked into something. Now, I've not noted down all the types of different careers, and I don't want to miss them out, so I don't want to miss one out, so I want to read them out to you. So, obviously, first one, teacher. Could easily go out there and be a teacher, but that's just obvious, but there's a lot more. Philosopher, language specialist, something connected with religion. Travelling might be a significant part of your role, or you might really love to want to be, especially got 10th house placements, you want to work in a different country. Logistics, Logistics, something that involves moving things around globally and talking to people around the world every single day. A holiday rep, going out on holiday, living in different countries and being like a tour for people there that want to go out and have fun. Sales, Jupiter in the 10th house, going to sales. Gift of the gab, all the stuff you learnt, Gemini on the 4th, you know you can talk the talk when you want to. Sales might be a good one. But basically a job that allows you to evolve and allows you to explore something so you're not stuck in one place. Something that could even pay you to learn and research. You are top-notch researchers. You are the masters of self-study. There's probably many Pisces risings watching this who know so much about astrology because you've been watching it for years already. You could also be a publisher. Sagittarius is 9th house, it's linked with publishing. So publisher in some way, so writing, again, that creative skill set that you guys have got, you need to be tapping into. Something that's a bit more out there. An astrologer. Or able to just do your own thing completely because you've got visions. Pisces risings, Aquarius, 12th house, you can have Sag 10th house visions that other people can't see. Dreams that you've got others just don't quite get, but you shoot your arrow and you might be able to just build that. The reason why, again, you could be on stage performing artist, musician, entertainer of some sort in the limelight. You might have always also just felt like you should have kind of always been famous in some way. But my point is that you're not here to maybe also stick to just one career path, guys. I don't foresee it being just one thing you do your whole life direction. No, it's going to change if you go off on these big spiritual retreats or these life-changing, transforming holidays and travels that you should be going on, Scorpio up in the 9th. You can come back with a whole fresh new direction to go in. So mutable on the angulars just allows you to always keep it fresh and keep it changing and keep it moving. Have a look and finish up now and look at the 8th house, guys. If you're still here watching with me, if you've made it all this way to the video, because I think this is going to be a long one. If you've made it all the way here and you like what I'm saying, don't forget to like and subscribe. But let's talk about Libra 8th house. So Libra, this is the male cardinal air sign that's ruled by Venus, sitting up in the 8th house. I love looking at the 8th house. It's such an interesting house. It's a house of psychology. It's the house of death, rebirth, taboo topics, sex, just the hidden house. It's the house of secrets. Only people that know you well is going to know what's going on up in the 8th house. And there's a very much a theme here, guys, with your 8th house, because we've got Libra, which is the sign of others. Venus is the relationship planet. And the 8th house is also the house of shared resources with others. It's other people. Second is all me. What I've got, 8th is opposites. That's what you have with other people. So there's a real theme in this house of others. So, teamwork makes a dream work might be one of your life mottos. One thing I just want to point out here though, guys, is that Venus does fall in Scorpio and Mars also falls in Libra, and these are the energies we're mixing together with Libra and the 8th house. But this is the house of sex, isn't it? So let's talk about that. The house of sex, and you've got Venus energy here. So you'll be a sexual being. You'll have a sexual nature. Enjoy the physical act of connecting with your significant other. You love that. It's quite an important part actually of your relationships and of your life is going to be the sexual connection with your partner. It's probably quite a requirement in your relationship, and with it being the Libra energy, that sort of grace and elegance and charm that comes with that's what you prefer when it comes to bedroom antics, not the rough and ready aggressive style, depending on your placements, of course. That's obviously more Aries up in the 8th, for example, but more love making. You've got Cancer in the 5th. Your emotions and sex, it's all connected. So you really like to feel that connection with your partner, but because it's the Venus energy here mixed with Scorpio, you might find that you've just kind of maybe attracted unwanted sexual attention to yourself. We won't jump too deep into the topic, but depending on how your Venus is aspected, this could be that even when we're talking about when you were younger, you were attracting unwanted sexual attention. And that could have led to certain situations there, if you get my drift. You're probably like that person that's more fair-minded and balanced, and someone who is attractive. Probably does need to be an element of a physical attraction there for you to be able to connect with somebody. But again, it's air up here in this house, isn't it? Air is about thinking and communicating. So you need someone that you can connect with and you can communicate with. Someone who's good with their finances as well. Someone who's wants to share things with you, be fair-minded and balanced. You don't really like the whole selfish thing. You want someone to be balanced because you've got such this generous and balancing side for you. It's a house of deep desires. We've got Venus energy here, so You deeply probably desire a relationship with a significant other. And again, what we touched upon with your Virgo in the 7th house, that kind of seeking for perfection in your relationships. And you might be looking for that here in the 8th house as well. And you're probably going to find that, in fact, it's your relationships that is an area where deep transformations happen to you. It's the house of transformation and crisis, death, rebirth, not always just physical, mentally, emotional death, rebirth. And you might go through relationships that truly change you at the core. And you could be in pieces thinking, oh my God, no, it's ended, what am I going to do? But it may even lead you on to an even better relationship, or you really do transform your partner through your relationship. You bring out sides in them and do things to help them and inspire them in ways that's never happened to them before. You do deeply value your privacy, though. You don't like people all up in your business. You've got Aries in the 2nd house. You're probably very much into taboo topics. As we said, we've got Scorpio energy mixing with your 9th house of Sag. Here we're mixing up the Venus energy with the 8th house. So deeply desire, this is the house of the mind, psychology, counselling and all that stuff. So you might deeply desire to study these types of topics, psychology, understanding the mind, because it's Libra here. You could deeply desire to study law, politics, become a judge. The house of sex, of course. This is why, as we said in Scorpio in your 9th house, you could actually study to be a sex therapist, a sex counsellor, a relationship counsellor. You want to help other people and help other people's relationships. Venus is, of course, a money indicator as well, which is why I'm saying if you did study one of these things like psychology, sex therapy, anything like that, you could actually earn income from that. You could turn it into a source of income. This is also the house of inheritance. And with the Venus energy here, you could actually inherit a whole heap of wealth. I'm going to leave it there though, guys. That was my video on the Pisces rising. If there's anything that I said that you liked or could relate to, then drop me a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then of course subscribe and come with me on my astro journey through YouTube. This video concludes my rising sign series. Woo! I'm so happy to have got this done for you guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. We're going to start a brand new series. I don't know which way to go, guys. Sag, full of ideas, but we'll find one. And I'll see you in my next video.